Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Like that. Hey, I understand on the phone we got a special guest calling in. Senator Bryan King is joining us from District 5. Bryan, welcome back to the program, sir.
Hey, Paul, good to be here.
Hey, I was going over some of these numbers, let's see here, about what would have happened. Last hour we were doing this. What would happen to our budget if we would have only allowed it to grow at 1.5%? And the surpluses are staggering, and we wouldn't have had to been raising our taxes like they just did, or attempt to raise it even more. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the narrative of how Asa Hutchinson misleads and deceives people. I mean, that's why he wants to go after people like me, and if he wants to go after me, that's fine. But, Governor, let's talk about the facts. And when he came out and he had to cut the budget, he said, it's not a spending problem, it's a revenue problem.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, totally misleading and deceiving people as to say, it's not my fault. It's you people's fault that you didn't send me enough money. And so I got a little tweet, Duncan Baird, who's been, budget chairman in 13-15 or 13-14, and then budget director. He's tweeting this kind of narrative that says, well, all these other states are missing their projections too, and he's going along with this con game of trying to con people and saying, basically, oh my gosh, it wasn't us trying to overspend. So what I did was, when I came into office in 2007, I voted for that RSA. I was a new member, and we had $1 billion surplus. That was a 2-year budget cycle. We didn't go to a yearly budget cycle. And in 2009, I'm looking at it, and I'm going, there's issues out here. I mean, there's a recession hitting the country. Hadn't hit Arkansas yet. There were several red flags. I said, I'm not voting for RSA. I was probably the only one.
Yeah.
I think I was the only one. And people go, why didn't you vote for it? It's a balanced budget and everything. I said, listen, it's a spending target. That's what RSA is. It says if we're going to say $10 is our spending target, we're going to spend that. If $12 comes in, we're only going to spend $10. Unfortunately for Asa Hutchinson, he's not in D.C. that can print more money. But so we'd have a $2 deficit. Well, let's say you have a spending target of $8 and $10 comes in. You have a $2 surplus. And so I was just looking at, we had a recession hit, problems. But as I say, there's two different ways down there that is so foreign to what's going on in Little Rock. There's the real world. There's the things that your listeners get up and go to work, budget, and try and figure out every day. And then there's what's going on in Little Rock down there in this, we all pat ourselves on the back and we do a great job party. And as you said, the Marble Palace. And so there's a different world that goes down there. And I just said, let's just do a 1.5% growth rate over the last years. If we would have done that, now that could have been, let me be fair, it could have been reducing some of the tax cuts that happened during that time.
Okay.
Or it could have meant something totally foreign to these guys that they don't have a clue about. Let's reduce spending and cut programs and make efficiency. And so if we would have done that over 10 years, we'd have a $5.6 billion surplus. Folks, we wouldn't have to raise taxes for roads if we just focused on spending.
Yeah. If we would just focus on spending. I'm looking at these numbers. I got them pulled up here for the I guess the spreadsheet or whatever. And you look at these the growth rates, how much we have grown versus, like you said, if we just do 1.5% budget limit, then the surplus that you end up with is, I would say, more than enough to not attempt to go back to the taxpayers and say, we cut your taxes in a minuscule way that nobody really even feels it. but we want to tell you that we've lowered your taxes, but we actually need to raise your sales taxes. We need to raise your gas taxes. We need to raise your tire taxes. We need to create a new tire tax.
Internet tax.
And all these things, I guess, don't need to happen if we would have just limited our spending. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we could have just said, hey, we're only going to have a 1.5% growth, we'd have enough money to do a lot of things, and we wouldn't have to be, as like I said, Governor Hutchinson, as I always say, JR down there, they tweet at me and stuff, but you know what? Let's talk about the facts. And as I was tweeting with Duncan Baird, who's been budget busting Duncan Baird, let's talk about spending. Well, you don't hear anything back, and I am more than happy to sit down with these guys. In fact, this last session, I had a personal meeting with Ace Hutchinson.
Yeah.
I said, Governor, you're going to have to cut the budget. We're not having the revenues. We're going to have this. We need surpluses. Anybody in their right mind could look at a situation where you have a $5-point-something billion machine that you need a surplus cushion going into next year. And I keep saying the same thing, Paul. They've wrecked us. We are not in a recession. The state is going to take in more tax dollars than they ever have before in Arkansas history, and these guys still have outspent the amount of money that's coming in.
So, what do you think? What do you think the solution is here, Brian? I mean, I know obviously, but the leadership doesn't seem to want to admit there's a spending problem. You have people in leadership saying it is a revenue problem. It isn't a spending problem. And like you said, that tweet, the director of the budget office, Duncan Baird, I mean, he seems to think, well, other states are having revenue problems as well, and so we don't need to single out Arkansas.
Yeah, that's always works well. I mean, if you say that, hey, I can't pay my bills, but guess what? A lot of other people can't pay their bills. I mean, these guys are sounding more like Bernie Sanders than they are Republican.
Yeah, with that,
and
back when they had
blaming everybody else.
Back when they had debtor's prison, like, well, I'm just another person in debtor's prison. They couldn't pay their bills either. That's just wild stuff. Hey, we got to go here in just a minute, but I just want to ask you one more time. You haven't made any decisions about running for re-election yet. You're right. You're going to wait till the end of the summer. You still stand by that, right?
No, I think politics has got so crazy. You're already talking about the next Democratic nominee for president. I mean, and I've just said I'm not out. I'm just waiting to see what happens with what's going on with the family situation, everything like that. And unfortunately, in Little Rock, these guys just keep misleading people, and they don't like it when I say that. But they never counter me back on the facts, if you ever noticed. It's always about, JR coming back and, Bryan King skipped school in the 4th grade and didn't vote for the class president or something. I mean, it's pathetic. And, as I always say, boys, let's just get down the facts. And, you look at the thing of what happened in council the other day. Now we're hiring outside counsel, spending our tax dollars because there are investigations going on and possibly information that the feds want. Yeah. And I mean, so
hey,
I think there's still a lot of questions to be asked up there that they don't want to tackle.
Yeah, we had some breaking news yesterday on that. We covered that. Former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research, David Ferguson, came on the program. And I was asking, I was like, why in the world would a GIF investigation spill over into trying to get the BLR emails? And David seemed to say, well, it could mean that the investigation has now gotten more broad because there really wouldn't be much GIF communication with BLR because they just write the bills that authorize the money.
That's right.
But then David said that the BLR, when he was there, maintained the emails of the legislatures, that the server was actually not connected to other government servers. It's its own thing. And that a lot of times investigations lead to other investigations, and that this actually may be a sign that the GIF investigation is now much more broad, and they are wanting, in a criminal investigation, I'm sure they're going to get those emails showing communications. I mean, I think it's huge news.
Yeah, you think so. I think, and unfortunately, it's put the staff in a very, very difficult position and we have. So I mean, it's going to be interesting as we found out with the disclosure bills that these guys keep fighting that me and Representative Miller have filed, and then next thing you know, there's another headline, and we're finding out more and more. Mm-hmm. But yet, people like John Eubanks, he walked out of the meeting. Others down there, they just don't want to. They don't want to show up. I mean, they don't want to show up and face that. Yeah, there's a problem. Just like on the budget, they just want to keep talking their way out of it.
Yeah. So, Senator Bryan King,
Roby Block and John Brummett, they're not going to. I mean, they're almost like having to be forced to write about it. I thought when Roby Block and John Brummett were talking about it the other day, unfortunately, they're friends that they were going to start crying when they had to talk about it.
They're not going to talk about it or write about it until the people get perp walked in handcuffs. Then they'll write about it.
It's just going to have to be forced about it.
Yeah. Senator Bryan King, I appreciate it, sir. You be safe. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate the call. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. Back in